those legs, people. Work those hips, people. Deep thrust. Deep thrust. That's right. You gotta really feel it in your hips, you see. You gotta really sit down in your pelvis there, you know? Your pelvis. You know, it's the sacred chair, right? Right? It's a throne, literal throne. Pelvis throne, a throne of bone. That's how you know you're never alone. Give a dog a bone. Good morning, all. Oh my God, I don't have hair on the top of my head again. Damn it! I thought that was a dream. Oh my God, I thought that whole thing was a dream. I really thought that whole thing was a horrible nightmare, and I've woken up and I still don't have hair on my head. Holy jeez, what has happened? Wait, that's a little bit too like. All right, James, we don't need to see that much, but yeah, there we go. There we go. Yeah, it's this. I need to like put down a little like a HUD right here that says James's current field, and it can have like insecurity, and it'd be like 13%, right? And then there's this whole like beep, beep. We could have my heartbeat on there. We'd have my respiration, and as I'm talking, you'd watch this lie detector test basically unwind, or even truth detector test. It depends on how you want to call it. Did you guys know that the irony of the lie detector test, I don't think people actually know this. Oh, you guys know, I know you know because I keep saying it, but I've been talking about that Innocence Project thing, right? Where 25% of the people will actually give a false confession. I'm not muted. And when you go deeper into that whole psychology, you learn a lot. You read a lot, I should say. And then you discern a lot from what you read. There you go. There you go. You read a lot, then you discern things from what you read. Doesn't always have to be a lot. And the irony, the lie detector test is a fucking lie. Did you know that they're not actually admissible in court? And then someone's going to say, James, you're lying. Prune my lips. What that person's going to be pruning my lips saying is that James is full of crap because he's Luciferian. And the reason why is because in case so-and-so and so-and-so, a lie detector test was totally submissible in court. Also, there's all these other civil proceedings where they are. And I'm saying that you can actually enter those things into court, but they're not allowed to have any bearing at all. Because intrinsically, the science of them itself is a lie. And it's hilarious because that's a lie detector. Friends, we are living in a world where we have this thing called a lie detector. When you grew up, you knew there'd be quicksand, lie detector tests, right? Safe cracking, a lot more horse riding, a lot more horses. And you knew the lie detector was in there. And it turns out the lie detector is a lie. In fact, if you need to beat a lie detector, you need to go down to your sacred throne, your sacrum, and at the base of your sacrum is something called your anus, and it's a pretty powerful connection into the polyvagal nerve system. And that what you do during a lie detector test, this is kind of standard. I'm not breaking any massive decodes here, except for maybe just some of you haven't heard of this. I think I might sneeze. And don't do it, James. Don't do it. You know what? Do it. If you have to do it, do it. It's okay. I give you permission to not sneeze and to sneeze at exactly the same amount. That's what we're doing. So to beat a lie detector test, you actually squeeze that sphincter muscle closed. You squeeze it tight. At the very beginning of the test, you squeeze it tight and you hold it. And you hold it. And if you find yourself flinching and it lets go, you close it again. And just maintain a system of closed. You're setting your baseline, polyvagal tension, the torque that we talked about, the torque that wraps, remember, this nerve wraps around your organs, your lungs, your intestines. It wraps around your heart. It wraps around your throat. And you squeeze, you dilate yourself, and you put yourself into this posture of holy fuck. And then you let yourself go. You release yourself from the bondage of that polyvagal tension. And when you grow up as a child, you had this the whole time, this throttling inside your organs this whole time. And you can control it if you were open to the suggestion, calm down. Right? Whether it be from someone else or whether it be from you. Excuse me, pardon me. Right now, I want you to let go of the waiting for James to say something else. I realize there's a dog barking, if you can hear that in the background. It's hard for me because I'm on a live stream, just so you know. Placing this space around you gives you the ability to control that mercy seat. It becomes the only focus in the room. And all of us are walking around having conversations with people thinking, my words will penetrate into their head. It will impact their inner ear. The inner ear will sound the drums of my words, and it will go into the neocortex, where a reasoning acolyte will come and bequeath reason upon the person. And that reason will open up an angelic hymnal to agreement with me. And that's what I will do. And to be honest, no, that's not how you convince anyone of anything. That the way that you convince anyone of anything is you go into a regulation contest. And I do not mean competition. I didn't say competition. I said contest. Protest. No. Protest and contest are both kind of shitty. What happens is two sphincters, the clenching of those sphincters, there's a meter. It's like that when you hit that hammer and the thing goes up and comes down and it tells you how strong you are. Those tensions come into the room, and the authenticity that vibrates, that secretes from that tension, ends up winning the room. It's not a destructive thing. It's a natural efficiency thing. That, like geese forming a V, it's a very natural, beneficial system that you enter into when you enter a building with strangers, with your coworkers, with your family, with your friends. And that order changes because a long time ago, back when you were 7, and then again when you were 11, and then from the moment you turned 13 until 15, you were a fucking rock hard cement sphincter during that point. That's why we call teenagers assholes. The tension that you held because you were trying to find a posture that caused you the least pain when you wanted to enter into a V formation and you just didn't know where I'm supposed to fit. And you didn't know that because you were not open to the subtle pranic resonance of everyone else around you constantly giving you a message of, hey man, I'd rather actually you be here. That I'm more comfortable here. And I'm saying here and there because to imply that there's a lead is actually not correct. Everyone is going to the same location. Their formation along the way is not necessarily indicative of someone being in charge. That we find in charge, what does that even mean? In charge, right? The capacitor, the sphincter capacitor on this group circuit that holds the charge And what does that mean? It gives us the ability to hone in and save calories. Save calories, because I am no longer navigating a three-dimensional positioning system. I am navigating the northwest vector or the northeast vector, depending on where I sit along the V. Humans have that too. It's just a little bit more complex, that's all. And more importantly, when the teenager learns to squeeze out that sphincter, which most often is determined by their home, by the situation at home, they end up going out into the world feeling betrayed if someone expects them to be in a different formation than where they were at home. And there's a challenging that takes place, but it's not always a challenging for the lead. Believe it or not, a lot of it is the challenging for the rear. That the rear is not responsible for anyone else. That the rear feels the whiplash of the entire movement of the chain. And that the rear could disappear and no one would notice. No one would fault him, that there is a profit from that location, and people will adjust their sphincter posture if it means they can get in a more profitable position for themselves, for who they are. So you have natural competition at the front, who's going to be the lead dog. No one wants to look at another dog's ass. And you have competition at the back too. And the world doesn't talk about the competition at the back because it's very sinister. It's very subversive. It's built on a lot of lies. One of which is a lie detector test. I need to get onto this show. Sorry about that. It had nothing to do with Blue Kachinas at all. Or does it? Dun 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 dun. Where'd you go? Yeah, Chrome, Blue Kachinas? Okay. Get you up front there. There you go. Roar me Kachina. Me Kachina. You Kachina, me Kachina. That's not the show? Sacred Clown is the show. Some call them Heyoka, meaning crazy, by the Lakota. Some call them Hawkon, or the Holy Idiot, by the Arapaho. So you've got crazy and you've got holy idiot. You have the Payakiamu in Hopi, the Kosa in Tiwa, the Kosher among the Keres people, Tabosh at Jemez, New Mexico, Nowekwi by the Zuni, and schizophrenics or bipolars by the waticos. That all of these are names for sacred clowns from sacred tribes around America. And that the sacred clown is a profoundly important archetype figure, medicine, and that we have profoundly unburlesqued the clown in a way, and shamed it into a very interesting pigeonhole for a very specific purpose, and that purpose is to remove the power of the sacred clown. And I want you to understand that although a lot of this will be Hopi, that I'm showing this slide first because I need you to understand that this is not just a Hopi thing. It's a Pueblo thing, and even beyond. That you see this exact same figuring and shamanistic costuming in Africa, and you see it in Mexican culture too. But I'm just focusing on the Pueblo part of it. And I've been wanting to say this on a stream for a long time about Pueblo. I hope that I don't get us too off track here, but if you believe in syncretism, I want you to realize that we've grown up in a time where all of the free information that would help you has been inserted into the epigenetic salt as reachable through Pueblo, Colorado. And if you're old enough, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but maybe you haven't actually put this together in a synchronistic way. But again, for those of you who have the calories to entertain the syncretism that we talk a lot about on this show, which is going to overflow into animism now, I just want you to remember the Pueblo. I still think that's hilarious how I say it. Pueblo, Colorado reference. And in fact, if you remember what I'm talking about from younger days, please let me know in the chat, because I just think it's an interesting bell to play. But the sacred clown, I want you to see the words crazy, Heyoka, and the holy idiot by the Arapaho. And of course, think about the jester. But take it back to clown, because America has a certain very specific pigeonhole for clown right now. In the days before the invaders came, we had clowns. Not clowns like you see now with round red noses and baggy costumes. Our clowns wore all kinds of stuff, anything they felt like they wore. And they didn't just come out once in a while to act silly and make people laugh. Our clowns were with us all the time, as important to the village as the chief or the shaman or the dancers or the poets. Great essay linked in the description where I pulled that from. Shout out to Autumn for sending that in. It's really, really great read. But it starts to uncrack this I don't even know what to call it yet. This thing about the clowns. One of these clowns, there's a couple of different, like maybe four main generalized types of these clowns. It's very generalized because it's very much a homogeny. Keep in mind, this is a decentralized religion, thank goodness, which means the reason why I love decentralized is because when you have pristine cultures invoking the same kind of magic separately, I believe that's really a better arbiter of what's true, or at least what's naturally built into the scaffolding. There you go. When you can watch different pristine cultures reaching similar conclusions with their archetypes. One of the reasons why I try not to corrupt myself too much on watching other people's takes on things, because I believe I have a sacred virgin kind of approach to something that I can use to analyze and then compare, if that makes sense, that there's an ordering that I could not do otherwise. If I was to read what everyone else thought first and then said what I thought, I would not know if what I thought was actually moved by the very same sphincter, confident pelvis, polyvagal aperture percentage thing, right? As much as it had to do with me finding what felt the most comfortably true from my antenna. And I mean that comfortably true, as we've described. Getting to these things is not an objective thing. It's quite opposite. It's very much subjective. In fact, once you accept this subjective idea about the technology of belief, about what truth really is, this is, and by the way, this isn't me. This is American philosophy. This is pragmatism. This is Thoreau. This is William James. I'm not even the arbiter or inventor of this. It just happens to be a ship I noticed. Holy shit, I'm on this ship called the SS Synthetic Pragmatist or whatever. Finding that pristine antenna is a beautiful thing to have with you. And then you go to the harbor and you look around. You see what other antennas came up with, right? It's beautiful. Back to this, the Chiffonetti, if I'm pronouncing that right. Again, all these different names, Payakyama and Hopi, Kosa and Tiwa, Kosher among the Keres, Tabosh and Jemez, Nawekwi by the Zuni. These individuals presented themselves with black and white horizontal stripes painted on their bodies and faces, black circles around their mouth and eyes, and they part their hair in the center and bind it in two bunches which stand upright on each side of the head and are trimmed with corn husks. It's a sacred clown. Now, a lot of you guys have heard of Kachinas. Some of you haven't. So I'm going to tell you what I think they are. But at the heart of them, although no one else really describes them as that, but we are describing them as that. At the heart of them, they are animism tokens. Tokens can hold value. Tokens can be exchanged. You can charge a token with a certain value, much like a card or something. And so Kachinas are spirits, or personifications of things in the real world. These spirits are believed to visit the Hopi villages during the first half of the year. The local pantheon of Kachinas varied from Pueblo community to community. A Kachina can represent anything in the natural world or cosmos, from a revered ancestor to an element, a location, a quality, a natural phenomenon, a concept, or even the sun, stars, thunderstorm, wind, corn, insects, all of it, right? This is very important. It's very important because you were looking at one of the last remaining animistic cultures showing you the tokenization of their belief. And the tokenization of belief is freaking crucial. Now, I know many of you might be convinced that money is the root of all evil because you've heard that quote, when actually the quote is the love of money is the root of all evil. And so many of you might have this money bad, Fed Reserve, invent money, blah, 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 blah. But beneath all that, above that posture, if you just let your sphincter go a little bit, there you go. Above that posture is the tokenization of currency, which really is a public trust. It's a public trust that all of us have agreed that agreed to say this sheet of paper that has this dead guy on it is value. It holds current, and I inject my current into it by acquiring it, and I withdraw my current from it by giving it away. It's true. You inject your current into the dollar by acquiring it, which might sound even foreign to you. You're like, well, wait a minute, how? Money already had value, and I just found it. I didn't know. No, you seeking it is you injecting that kachina with value. You do that. You do that. But because we live in a culture where a lot of people don't want to own or accept their power, right? Because of that, we don't get to say that. We don't get to say that we inject the currency with our own power. That we inject that petrodollar with our own power. That's what's happening. When you go to a car wash, you pull out pieces of tin. They're not even silver anymore. You pull out a conglomeration of tin and aluminum, probably. Some sort of alloy, the cheapest thing possible. That's why coins get lighter. Why have coins gotten lighter? Because you've gotten better at this. All of us have gotten better at animizing our beliefs, so we no longer have to utilize precious metals like copper, like bronze, or although, bronze is a mix, but silver and gold. That we don't have to use those pure metals anymore because those metals are heavy. They're really, really resource intensive for us to find. We can use these other ones. Why? Because people are good enough at animizing now to where we don't have to reinforce their belief with the element that already has this belief from long, long ago, gold. So now we're giving paper. Paper showed us how much progress we had made with our animism, with our Kachina animism. I hope that makes sense. These Kachinas have a satirical and irreverent purpose. And the Kachinas had to be given the most powerful position in the pantheon of animism. That the Kachinas are at the base, root, and the beginning of every ceremony, including the very most important ceremony to many of these cultures, the Green Corn Festival. And that the Kachinas always come at the beginning of the year, and that the first ones to descend from the sky are these sacred clowns, a special type of Kachina, with these black and white stripes. And the Kachina's role is to do this, to mock and subdue the struggles that people play in life and apply medicine to them. And the only way that the clown, the sacred clown, can do this is if the sacred clown has more authority than all the other spirits. The sacred clown is first. The lead charge inside the V is the sacred clown. It's not the champion. It's not the warrior. It's not the mother. It's the clown. It's the first order. There's roughly four. It's not like really regimented, but there's like roughly 4 different levels of these Kachina. At the very top, sacred clown. You enter into a state in this sacred clown where you adopt the authority of what? The uniform. You adopt the authority of that uniform. You insert yourself into it. You divide your hair into poles too, right? Black and white. All the way up, all the way down. And your irreverence is expected. In fact, you fail if you do not deliver it. You are pulling irreverence from the crowd. You will mimic the crowd. You will beg for food from the crowd. You will trick people in the crowd. You will turn the crowd against each other. You will steal things from the crowd. Whatever it takes for you to apply the medicine is what you do. And the medicine is not always laughter. In fact, most of the time it's not. Maybe not most of the time, but many times it's not. That the tears of a clown in our society have this very superficial idea. And the reason why we have that superficial idea is because we fear the medicine of the sacred clown. We've done something to it. The waticos, the tribe that you and I pay taxes to when we do, that you and I are living inside of their palisade, that is the waticos, isn't it? It's not the white people, it's the waticos. And these people, our ancestors, did not contract watico. They chose and exude watico, and that we can emit this when we have enough electricity to look at ourselves and where we come from. The importance of this mockery is really at the heart of what you and I would now call free speech. And that, believe it or not, the sacred clown could yell fire in a crowded theater. Do you know why? Because the theater has a centralized message that's being broadcasted on the screen. And the only medicine a sacred clown could bring to something like that is to yell fire. Why? Because that's the only thing that he could say that would get everyone out of the theater. So if the medicine is to make people escape from the theater, the very medicine that we are revoking, saying, well, you can say anything you want except for fire in a crowded theater. You can't shut the show off, dude. That's what that means. That's what that means. Yeah, you can have your sacred clowns, but they can't have any authority. We can't take them seriously. Everything has to be superficial. And they're supposed to just kind of creep us out. And that's it. That's all you can do with it. Same thing with the ghost dance. You guys can't ghost dance. We will gun down 300 of you right now in the middle of the fucking day if you dance. Now you can move your legs and arms around. But it has to look like this. And we have to unburlesque the ghost dance. Eviscerate, maybe that's the better word. We have to eviscerate the ghost dance. And the only way we can eviscerate it is by keeping the dance alive, but completely changing its reverence and its meaning. Same thing for the sacred clown. Same fucking thing for the sacred clown. And this dude knew exactly what to do because he was the jester of dichotomy. He was the jester of two poles. He was the flashlight on the Hegelian dialectic. Koyamshi, the dancing clowns of the Pueblo Indians. Obscene and sacrilegious actions punctuate the most important religious ceremonies and serve as a sign of the presence of the powerful primordial beings and as a means of social control by their satire of the antisocial behavior of particular individuals. If this reminds you of a Tuscan Raider, it should. This image of this mask. And I think if you have enough electricity to see, like to simulate right now, if you can afford it, and if you're not listening on a podcast and you can actually see this picture of this mask, this amazing looking mask, I think you can picture what it would feel like to be in someone's presence who was wearing this mask, but you didn't know who that was behind the mask. That it would put you into this state of what the fuck is getting ready to happen? What is this dude, person, girl, man? I don't know. What are they getting ready to do? And that puts your sphincter in a very specific place. In fact, I think that it would probably cause you fear. The first thing you'd feel is fear, which would be the constriction. All of your organs, your polyvagal is now squeezing all of those organs. So now you're in fear. And now the clown does something silly. He takes a cream pie and he shoves it in your neighbor's face. And it's like good. It's like a really good cream pie. And now that fear that you have is overcome with just, you're shocked that this breaking of boundaries, the breaking of these personal boundaries has been violated. You are shocked now. But there's no violence. There's not even a clear sign of trespass yet. Because your friend hasn't actually moved. Your friend is completely frozen in the cream pie that's been placed in his face and is completely immobile. And during that state of immobility, believe it or not, the victim of that trespass has not declared themselves a victim yet, which means it hasn't actually been a trespass yet. The quantum wave has not collapsed, and that event happened right after the fear of this mask. And that state of squeeze, surprise, takes your organs to another level. It takes your organs to another harmonic. You switch to the next octave. And do you know why you did that? Because Koyamshi had the electricity to do it to you. And the rest of Koyamshi's act is important because he needs to solidify the trust that you still are bequeathing to him because you and your neighbor have still not claimed a trespass. And that you are laughing so hard at your friend that your posture, your polyvagal sphincter posture, outcompetes and beats his posture of being offended. That it leads, and he finds a pranic ability to simply enjoy the ride. And so he does. And he notices that if I maintain a northwest vector to my friend that's laughing at me because I have cream pie in my face, I actually have a pretty good time. And when I can't help but taste the cream pie that's actually here, it tastes really good. I haven't had whipped cream in like years. And it's fucking banana. Holy shit. So good. And you're not even embarrassed. You know why? Because there's a mask of whipped cream now on your face. And no one can actually see you. The magic here is just light years advanced. The ancient magic of the cream pie is the ancient magic of Koyamshi. And Koyamshi could only produce what Koyamshi could if Koyamshi was the top tier authority or Kachina or sacred clown. Another group is the Mudheads. There's another order of clown priests, the Koyamshi. It's a dirtier version. But this is medicine. This is medicine. And the Blue Kachina is a type of that medicine. Sorry, I didn't notice that I didn't lay out that slide all pretty. I need to see what I typed here. Now, many of you have heard of the Blue Star Kachina. The Blue Kachina. And the Blue Kachina is the idea, it's a Hopi legend that actually probably started in like the late 20th century, to be honest. There's not really a lot of information that says that it's old. And it doesn't matter because I'm talking about the syncretism here. But the Blue Star Kachina, or Sakwasohu, sorry, I'm brutalizing that, I'm sure. I'll get this slide on there so you can see it. Appreciate y'all looking at the top of my head while I'm doing this. The Blue Star Kachina, or Sakwasoha, is a Kachina or spirit that will signify the coming of the beginning of the new world by appearing in the form of a blue star. The Blue Star Kachina is said to be the ninth and final sign before the day of purification, described as an apocalypse or a world-engulfing cataclysm that will lead to the destruction of the world. Keep in mind that's destruction of the old world, right? The name... I'm about to relate this to the fifth sun, by the way. The name, it's just not on this slide. The name Sakwasoha means blue star. Some people think it means Sirius. And if it looks like what they're talking about, a lot of people who have this cosmology will claim that Sirius is a binary star. Either way, the luminary of Sirius pulses between red and blue, red and blue, red and blue, red and blue, red and blue. And the Blue Kachina is a sign that that rhythm is shifting into a fifth world. This is just like the fifth sun, right? It's the exact same description of the fifth sun. Who's the fifth sun? Quetzalcoatl, right? And so Quetzalcoatl, to go deeper into Quetzalcoatl, you see that Quetzalcoatl was also really a holai, the sun Kachina. The fourth world would eventually give way to the fifth world, in a reoccurrence of the periodic destruction that gave birth to New World ages. This myth, which posits the return of Pahana, the white brother from the east, is almost certainly related to the Mesoamerican feathered serpent legend at Quetzalcoatl and the Mesoamerican idea of successive worlds. I want to remind everybody that one of the theories as to why Cortez was able to so easily manhandle the Mexicans is because most of their cultures had this idea that the white snake would return from the east, the Quetzalcoatl. And so when you have a white dude coming from the east and he's all shiny and stuff, it's not hard to imagine how some people could be like, yeah, this dude's Quetzalcoatl. I don't think that they thought that the whole time, but I think that just like you and I are fighting with the community's fashion around the words COVID or Apollo program, right? That just as we battle with our local culture against those, that they would be battling with their local thought, their local indigenous legends about the very legend of the fifth son. Which means that Cortez was actually enacting pretty serious magic. Black magic is white magic, right? It's a messy pot. As in the Aztec case, it is possible that the whiteness of the being was ascribed to him after the contact period to help him place the arrival of white men from the east. Again, a lot of Hopi traditions end up reverse or backwards engineering their legends. Now, in 1986, I was not tracking this, but in 1986, there was a convergence festival. And a lot of people were, I'm sorry, was it 87, I think? Here, I'm about to read this to you so you can tell. I just got to. The prophecies came to head in the summer of 87 at the Harmonic convergence. An event New Agers thought signaled a change in history. Many gathered at Prophecy Rock on the Hopi Mesa, but the event there had no Hopi participants and was decried by Hopi elders. But here's what I want you to see. This is kind of really cool in my opinion. Especially after New Age attendees invoked aliens. At the event, the alleged Hopi prophecies of the 50s and 60s were appropriated by white New Agers as ancient mysteries and associated with all manners of alternative belief, including Robert Temple's Sirius mystery, UFOs, and other unconventional ideas. As a result, the prophecies entered the alternative mainstream in associating with space beings, Sirius, and other extraterrestrial mysteries. And I'm about to say the most arrogant fucking thing I've probably said, and I've said a lot of arrogant things on here. But the Hopi missed their own prophecy. That for them to decry what was happening in 1987 at the Harmonic convergence, that is the Blue Kachina, guys. The cosmic clown, the sacred clown, would mock beliefs. It would mock the traditional structures because the medicine that was required was that those people needed to see that they weren't taking their own shit seriously. It's a big stretch, what I'm about to explain, but I believe Project Bluebeam is the Blue Kachina, and that we will miss it because we will insist that no one can come in dressed like that clown. And how would you be dressed like a clown in the modern world? Aliens. Aliens. Roswell. All of the stories that you've heard, eyewitness accounts of, I was hired as a temp cadaver autopsy specialist, even though I don't have any training in that. This is an actual example of a sacred clown who doesn't know that they're a sacred clown. If someone can tell me the name of this guy in, I'm sorry, I can't think of his name, but, David Wilcox interviewed him. Many people interviewed him, but this is a guy that claims that he was hired by the government as a temp dude to go in to an underground base. They took him 4 stories underground, and he was ordered to perform an autopsy on a piece of an alien's arm. And they brought the alien's arm into him, and his job was to cut it apart and describe it, and transcribe what he saw into a computer, and to run photosynthetic tests on the tissue. And he was hired to do this top secret mission from a temp agency. It wasn't Corey Good, although holy shit, what a sacred clown. It wasn't Bob Lazar. This guy is a little bit more nuanced. He's not. The reason why I'm telling you, maybe it was Schneider then. Oh, didn't do autopsies. Thank you. If you guys can figure it out, thank you. Please do. Uh, the reason why I'm telling you this is because when you, it's not Dana Scully. How dare you? I care about you. Uh, the reason why I'm telling you this about this one particular person is because if you listen to the eyewitness accounts, and he's a kind of a short guy, he's a little bit like just more roundish, like black hair, well groomed, wears a button down, real conservative looking. And when you watch the interview with him, I'm hoping to see if someone does come up with their name. It's okay if not. But when you're watching the interview with him, you believe him unless you're just not tuned in. But when you're watching the interview with him, he is telling the truth. He is telling you that yes, this is exactly what happened, and it is what happened. It's exactly what happened. And when you put together the sacred clown, all of these pieces would fit onto the uniform of the sacred clown. And if you only have a certain electricity, it would never occur to you that why in the fuck would the federal government send someone to a secret underground base because they hired as a temp position to come in and autopsy one piece of an arm so then he could leave and go tell the world about it? I will look up serious suggestions and I will tell you if it's him. I don't know if Barney Hill's a joke. Hopefully it's not. I'm going to look up Barney Hill and see. And I want you to know that it would be that easy as a sacred clown to say, let's put an ad in Craigslist and hire someone and tell them we're taking them to a secret underground base and let's have a cosplay dude come over and let's see if we can make him believe that he's actually operating on an alien's insect's arm. And yes, you can make someone believe that. Do you know why? Because we need a Kachina to make fun of how easily we fall for this stuff. And I'm not here to disparage this man. This man believes that this is what happens, and I think it's just beautifully honest that he was able to even hold that and say those things. And if you read that, I need to move on because we're not gonna find his name. It sucks. Now is it? Just drop it, James. You're not gonna think of it. The Bluebeam is a project by the government designed to fool the entire population into believing that an extraterrestrial messiah type figure has come, and that this messiah speaks telepathically but only to the president and has conveyed a very important message for the world, and that the Pope will come out and say the Reptilian space Pope is the real deal and we should listen to him, and the president will come out and say the Reptilian space Pope told me today how dirty and evil we are, and because of how racist we are, our entire planet is going to die and be destroyed unless we listen to the Reptilian space Pope. And the Project Bluebeam will unfold this program with a giant, huge, furious display of sound and light, gunpowder, fireworks, the oldest magic there is. And that this clowning of us will lead us to Israel. It will lead us to a space of what is real. And that concept of all of us collectively over the mass consciousness at exactly the same moments in time, watching these rituals explode like fireworks. Those fireworks are causing you to light up and awaken. It's what 9/11 was. It's a sacred clown ceremony by the merry pranksters. And I don't need you to think or believe that the merry pranksters read my presentation by the Pueblo. This is how syncretism works. That the only way that you could wake someone up is using this kind of sacred magic. You're not going to be able to come in a suit and tie and simply just explain how reality works. Reality doesn't even work that way. It's one of the reasons why that's not going to work. The blue space chicken is the Blue Kachina. And I can't freaking believe that I'm saying this. I have put so much effort into undermining Corey Goode and David Wilcox. And they are actually fulfilling the blue space chicken. And the absurdity of it, it took this long for me to stop taking myself and my research so seriously. And the absurdity of it has finally broken through for me. I finally had a breakthrough, and I see it now. This is the blue space chicken, put forth by Corey Goode and David Wilcox. And that the Hopi missed their own sacred clown disguised inside the body of Corey Goode, inside the body of David Wilcox, moving the sinews of these people, moving their arms back and forth. And that we will come to a culmination where the absurdity of the story will get so ridiculous, so silly, so absurd that the cream pie will simply be unavoidable and it will hit in a massive fatal incident. Fatal meaning it will destroy the old world, completely obliterate it. Completely. And who will be at the beginning of the fifth world? The exact same sacred Kachina, the first class of Kachina that was at this world, the sacred motherfucking clowns. And who do we call clowns but the CIA? Who do we see performing these merry prankster type stunts for so long? That we have, whether you believe it or not, we have Koyamshi inside our government, and not all of them are even aware they're wearing the mask. Why are they not aware? Because this is built into the scaffolding of this place that we live in. These sacred clowns, these mudheads, these blue star Kachinas, these are built into the fabric of our reality. And we naturally assemble. Don't you understand what it means about you can't take things so seriously? Do you understand what syncretism means, guys? Sirius. What is the name of the blue star? The dog star is Sirius. The dog star is Sirius. The dog is the jackal. Anubis, the opposite. Isis and Anubis, the separation between above and below. The death of the old world, the bringing of the new world. The black and the white. The harlequin romance of the blue Kachina, of the sacred clown, and it's been in front of our eyes the whole time. And we're living in a culture that shames and spits on these clowns because we cannot handle this truth. Alpha Canis Majoris, the dog star. And we have a myth of Romulus and Remus, the twins, giving birth to Rome by sucking on the teat of the dog star. And the dog star is the blue Kachina. It's the blue Kachina. And you cannot take a clown too seriously, which is why this world is supposed to be a giant punk ceremony. You're supposed to be punked. You're supposed to be cream pied. You're supposed to be running around taking all this shit seriously, being convinced that you just performed an autopsy on a giant 12-foot tall praying mantis because you found a ad in Craigslist. And you came out of that going, man, it was real. The whole thing was real. Is real. Is real. The Temple Mount. The final show between the fleur-de-lis of this Abrahamic people. The children of Abraham are being punked in the biggest way possible. And the only way out is through your sphincter. Is through your sacrum, is through this polyvagal adjustment where you stop taking things so seriously from serious and begin to find what's beyond the costume, what's beyond the mask. It's so beautiful how it happens automatically. We tend to think that our religion and our rituals and our magic has to be planned and consciously carried out, and it's just simply not the case. All of these things have typology in them. All of these things are written in typology. Most of the Bible, some of the Bible that a lot of people take seriously is actually the mocking of people that would believe that. That, believe it or not, the typology, the story of Jonah and the whale, definitely represents, as we said, the movement of the sun into Cetus. This is part of the typology. So on this level, boom, the sun moves into Cetus. And on another level, the story of Jonah being swallowed by the whale is really the story of a nincompoop who cannot claim responsibility for his own actions. But that's the typology up here on level 3. Where you have trash privilege. Now, it's the 144 hertz reality versus 111 hertz. I'm just making these numbers up. Versus 78 hertz. That the topology goes up and down like this. And that we as a collective society have a sacred clown understanding of about 0.001 hertz. And all of the magic is inside that sacred clown, but we don't take it seriously, because we haven't learned to listen to the typology. Most literalists in the Bible haven't or will not accept the idea that there's topology there, that there's a resonance. Most of Marty Leeds' work is simply uncovering the typology that really is not just in the Bible, is in everything that was written at the time. If you wanted a story, a mythology to persist inside the body, you had to write it in such a way where it resonated on every single factor and level you could find. It made it more popular. Disney does this by putting giant jelly dildos on the covers of some of their movies. Their sexual innuendos are placed in there for the same reasons. It's a storage strategy to keep you, to keep the information from going corrupt, i.e. from being forgotten. And we look now at this true magic and where it comes from. And it comes from anonymity. Because when you don the sacred clown, you step into a mask of anonymity. And what is that? It is the loss of self. You lose yourself behind this kind of magic. And you have to, because the sacred clown associates himself into a grand gesture. And I mean both versions of gesture. That he sacrifices himself. How does he sacrifice himself? Through anonymity. To play the role of the sacred clown. Because that's the only way he can administer medicine. You can't know who's behind the mask of the clown, or else the medicine wouldn't work. If you said, oh, that's Uncle Jesse behind there, it wouldn't work. In order for a clown to perform meaningful social commentary via humor, the clown's identity must usually be concealed. What is 4chan? What is QAnon? What is WikiLeaks? What is Snowden? What is Assange? What is Parkland? What is the shooting in Dallas? It's a sacred clown performing a duty, and it's happening through syncretism. It's not conscious. No one needs to celebrate these people. I'm simply telling you that the syncretism and the scaffolding of the world creates the clown. And that if you're truly here for hermetic learning, I need you to stop fucking bitching about how no one's being honest and realize that you claiming that no one's being honest is you shitting on and taking too serious the information and completely ignoring the magic of the cream pie. And that you will only be moved through these kinds of actions. It's the only way that would move you. And what have we done to the clown, to the Kachina? Look at what we've done. The Hamburglar, right? The image of the black and white is a thief. You cannot trust him. He steals nourishment from you. He stops you from eating. The shame we placed around blackface. The idea of a prisoner in a black and white uniform. This is the Kachina. This is the sacred clown, and this is your culture, the waticos. This is what the waticos have to do to the sacred clown. They have to circumcise the sacred clown. They have to put it in jail. They have to call it wrong. They have to say it's irreverent and superficial. This is what the waticos, us, does to our sacred clowns. And the highest order would be the mime. And look at how we treat mimes. The mime has to have that kind of kickback because we are the waticos. And we're living in a land that belonged to these people who use kachinas, people who are utilizing belief technology to unlock their medicine. One of the ways these kachinas worked was to erect a pole. And I believe that this pole erection is, I think they're forming a human kachina antenna. It's an electrical circuit. And they place prizes up on the pole, and they grease the pole, and they challenge people to see who can climb the pole. And it's part of what brings all the attention in. It brings the attention. How could you not watch these kachinas? So the pole itself ends up being a magnet. It's part of their circuit. It's part of the clown circuit. They open every ceremony. Why? Because they were at the beginning of the world. It's why all kachinas are associated with the beginning of the year, not the end. Just more pole image here. Sorry, that was something I missed to say yesterday. So we are the kachinas. We are. You watching what's happening with Corona has turned you into kachina, into a sacred clown, I should say. You watching what's happened with Corey Good and all the others turns you into the sacred clown. Either that or you're just going to torture yourself as you pretend that all this is normal. The sacred clown doesn't actually say it's normal, does it? No, the sacred clown says this is just ridiculous. And he dresses the part. And he puts on the uniform. He's utilizing uniform too, isn't he? He's disassociating to access his magic. And all we do is bitch about disassociating here. That's all we do is complain about it. Yeah, disassociate. And here the very sacred clown is utilizing that magic for himself. And for the world. And I think Project Bluebeam is exactly that. And I don't think anyone has to be conscious of it to catch it. To see it. Max Spears might be it. I don't know. It sounds familiar, but let me see. Max. No, I know that dude, but no. No, this dude didn't actually want to be on TV. That's why it was so. This dude actually didn't uh, want attention. I'd like to give a shout out to Autumn Marlene Eagle Shield. Thank you so much for turning me on to this idea. Um, Sark, I think I might be a yeah, yeah, maybe. There's a what? Gee, what clued you off there, Sark? Which part was it? There's a link to that article in the video description. If you guys want to take a look at that, and yeah, I think that here's the deal with Bluebeam. I think that the goal, whether the government's conscious of it or not, I don't care. Whether it's just one part of the government or larger part, I don't care. But that there is sacred clowns working here. No one would, no one would be this in charge of things and this inept at the same time. I know that we like to claim that these figures that really do have a lot of influence and power in this world are stupid. But I'd like for you to revisit that and go, really? Does that really make sense? Because that would mean that just by natural design of just how everything works, that we would have to be even stupider than that. So when we're suggesting things like that, I think we're really just degrading ourselves. And you don't, no one, none of them has to get credit. Don't worry. No one has to get credit. You can get all the credit for pulling yourself out of this mess. That's why the mess is so consensual. That's why it's asking for consent from everybody. If this was an evil overlord of controllers, there would not be consent. You would have, all of us would have woken up and we would have had the vaccine put into us by some way. That's what that world is that everyone else is trying to paint of these evil overlord Luciferians that are going around drinking blood for breakfast of children, which is great. This is part of the whole Blue Kachina thing. But you know that that's actually not what's happening on the ground. And what's happening on the ground is whether you, not you would admit it, there are sacred clowns doing things. In the middle of those sacred clowns doing things, they're just a regular populace insisting that we cannot take clowns seriously anymore. That we cannot afford to have anyone be clowning around. Stop that clowning around, we say. These are for kids at a party. Adults have no business being around a clown or enjoying a clown. We'll turn it into a fast food restaurant if that's what it takes. But we are not putting them back into the reverence category again because they are too dangerous. And you see this with comedians too, right? That the jester, the comedian, you're seeing the same kind of magic being secreted through the same kind of avenues. It's powerful stuff. So why would we ourselves not punk ourselves? Why would we ourselves not see how many people would fall for the folly of a 11-foot tall praying mantis that we saw walking down the hall? And we fall for that folly so much that we end up, with 73 holes in our body as we try and cleanse ourselves with the injection of some sort of metal, shrapnel into our body. That's the kind of clowning the world's giving you. It's clowning you in the most profound way because it's time to wake up. We're running out of time. Right? I think the most base message that the sacred clown tells you is that don't worry. I promise you you're going to die. Now go have fun. That the most profound sacred clowning of life itself is to remember that the only way you would agree to come out of this Stargate, to log into this place, to slip into Dojo World, to whatever you want to call it, the only way that you would have agreed to be born is if you were 100% assured at the promise that someone made you before you came here that you would die. I guarantee you that you would not have chosen to be born if someone would not have promised you. Cross my heart, all of it. Cross my heart, hope to live forever. That I promise you, if you get born in this world, John, James, Jim, Alan, that, Danny, Jay, Debbie, that if you choose to get married, to get born in this world, I promise you, you will die. It'll be okay. And that's really is the perfect cream pie that kind of resets you and allows your posture of your polyvagus to find a new adjustment with a more comfortable throne. It's a sacred clown. All right. I think that does it. Hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. We got Dodo today at 12:30. That's in 14 minutes. You can join us for that if you'd like. Find that link on Patreon or on JTrue. Or if you put your email in the box, it could be if one of the other Dojo members sees that, they'll invite you. They can invite you today. You can check that out. We'll be getting more into Project Bluebeam later. I hope that you guys maybe will consider this episode as like a foundational build-up for that, because I want to start to talk more about how the merry prankster in you has been here the whole time and how it comes out without you even knowing it. Because I don't want us to consciously think that we have to become a merry prankster. This is very Rosicrucian. The Rosicrucians tell you that no, you don't join our society. You just notice that you've been a part of our society this whole time. That's what makes that order so intrinsically powerful, I think, is because it wasn't someone's consciously trying to say, this is what our secret order is. It's not that. The Rosicrucians is saying, hey, I noticed this about us, and I noticed this about us, and I noticed this about us. And that all of you, if you were Rosicrucian, you would feel this way too, wouldn't you? And the answer is yes. Same thing with Sacred Clown. You've been doing this the whole time. You have been. So keep clowning. Keep doing it. I'm sorry I can't find that guy's name. But I appreciate you guys trying to guess. If I could find it right now, I could send you off with that dude's name, and you could watch that interview. Alien Autopsy Confession? Probably isn't Confession. Alien Autopsy, that doesn't really narrow it down. Man, if I could see his face, though. I've got it stored under his face. Glenn Beck. You know what's funny? His name might be Glenn. It's funny you say that. I think his name might even be Glenn. But, yeah, Alien Autopsy Eyewitness. Guys, consider the show over right now. Only hang on if you're just really curious who this guy's name is, because I'm just having a hard time letting go without saying. But, he's not actually coming up. Again, he was kind of shy. He didn't really want to be seen. It's part of what made it so believable is you're watching his system regulate as he's trying to explain what happened. While I'm looking, I think it sucks that people that believe in UFOs don't think that my work is still valid, because I've always explained how aperture works, that you would find different costumes, right? And you would place these energy inside these costumes. But I'm still considered, I think, a denier, which I don't actually think is fair at all. I'm a zetetic. I've seen information that tells me there is something to energy that we're seeing, and that schizophrenics, it's hard for me to believe that meth heads and that they could have the same kind of vision when they're right next to each other. As I said, you should consider the show over, because I don't think I'm going to find it. I'm just looking, hoping that I will. Maybe I'll play the outward song, and then, although I typically get up during that and stretch. Yeah, I don't see any coming in. It's okay. It's okay. Thanks, guys.
Don't know where to go.
Cosmic disclosure. Emery Smith is his name. Emery Smith. And David Wilcox interviews him. It's season 9, episode 1. And guys, I want you to remember, it's supposed to be a clown. But we take it too seriously. It's supposed to be a clown. And I want you to watch this autopsy. I want you to watch. Tell me if you think Emery Smith is telling the truth. And then after that, tell me why the fuck you would have an underground dumb base where you're like, okay, we got a lot of praying mantis arms that we got to autopsy. We're going to have to farm some of this work out, but it's top secret. So I think the way to do this is we're going to have to compartmentalize it. And we're going to have to take we're going to turn the giant praying mantis body into 30 different pieces, and we're going to hire 30 people from the general public who have no experience at all in any kind of biology. We're going to hire them to come in and dissect just part of the arm, and then we're going to pay them, and then we're going to tell them to leave. We're going to blindfold them, and they come up and come out, and then that way no one will suspect a fucking thing. That's the story that Emery Smith is trying to tell you. And I want you to see, in addition to that, I think he really believes that, because I think that really probably happened. And I think that if you were operating on the Blue Kachina, your ass would be in Four Corners in the Pueblo area right now. Not Pueblo, Colorado, but you'd be in that area right now, and you'd be doing underground ops. Notice how Epstein has the same it's an elevator that goes 6 stories down underground. And that's where all the bad stuff happens. And Emery Smith's saying, yeah, I answered that on Craigslist. I showed up. They blindfolded me. They took me downstairs. And and on the way to the room, I saw a giant bug man walking down the hallway. Yeah. He had like a tunic, because I always have a tunic. He had a tunic on. He's being escorted by 2 other guards, but it didn't look like that he was like a prisoner. This is paraphrasing pretty badly. I'm sure it's been a while since I've heard him, but you could expose people to that, especially around Taos, especially around that area. You could expose people to that, and for fuck's sake that's free publicity. It's not even free. You had to put a lot of cosplay into it. You had to put some calories into it. Anyway, check it out if you want. If not, that's cool too. But there he is. But tell me if you think he himself, as he's talking, use your empathic radar and tell me if you think he's telling the truth, because that's what I found fascinating about this. And yeah, can't play it again, can I? That really wouldn't be right. You guys, go. If you can't handle this song again, go. Don't worry, you're gonna die. It's okay. Now go play. Go play, guys.